to Pittsburgh, where the Monongahela and the Allegheny River join.
It's easy to see the six Lombardis and proud culture of excellence, yet forget that in the early 50s, the Pittsburgh Steelers were the absolute gold standard of incompetence. It's not an exaggeration to say they were the NFL's favorite punchline of the era. And nothing encapsulates their mid-century brand of football idiocy more than the tales of Johnny Unitas and Len Dawson. Two quarterbacks, both drafted by Pittsburgh, were quickly put out to pasture and revived elsewhere, ending with immortalization in canon. Let's begin with Johnny Unitas, a name so ubiquitous with football that only John Madden and Tom Landry can rival it. The Super Bowl ring, the gunslinging arm, and that haircut? You could set your watch to it. Little Unitas grew up in the Burgh in a working-class family. His father's untimely death early in his life would force his mother to take on multiple jobs to support the family. Despite being undersized as a QB, little Johnny made his high school football team and eventually earned a roster spot at the University of Louisville. Surrounded by the subpar talent of a post-war football program, Johnny did what every college student does. He discovered he went both ways. On the gridiron. His role as a quarterback and defensive back provided some eyes from NFL scouts, but not enough to solidify him atop any team's wish list. By the time the 1955 NFL Draft rolled around, most teams said little Johnny was too small and too unpolished to succeed at the next level. The Steelers took him as a 9th round afterthought. But having excused the little last remaining brain cells in the front office to bring him in, Pittsburgh would make note to the press that they believed he was too dumb to play quarterback. Upon being brought in, Pittsburgh already had established QBs Jim Finks and Ted Marchibroda on the roster. You don't recognize those names. You're talking about 1975 NFL Coach of the Year Ted Marchibroda. How'd you not know that? Johnny was left to fight for his football future in training camp. A lengthy history of mediocrity should leave a team hungry for change. But even well before the age of Tomlinisms would take hold, the standard was still the standard.
We do not care.
Even though the coaching staff made the call to bring in the hometown boy, they didn't see a need to keep the highly raw Unitas on the roster. Head coach Walt Kiesling took one look at Unitas and unilaterally decided that he wasn't good enough to run an NFL offense. And never fucking would be. Instead of even giving him a chance to show his ability, they let him take reps in practice without actually running any plays. No real coaching, no opportunities, just a one-way ticket to selling insurance. He was cut before he ever took a regular season snap, but the exiled son wasn't discouraged, going on to play semi-pro ball with the Bloomfield Rams and working construction on the side to make ends meet. The following spring, the Baltimore Colts held open tryouts. Unitas showed up, outplayed the entirety of his competition, earned a roster spot, and banished starting sophomore QB George Shaw to the bench. The rest of Johnny's tale is immortalized in the record books. A 3-time league MVP, a 3-time NFL champion, and a bust in the Hall of Fame before he hung up the cleats. The Pittsburgh coach that cut him, canned a year later with a final career record of 30, 55, and 5. I guess he wasn't good enough to run an NFL team, eh? If you thought this was the only time the Steelers would watch a former draft pick dominate the league, I'd encourage you to check the time remaining on this video. Just 2 years after axing Johnny, they'd used the 5th overall pick in the 1957 NFL Draft to select young, bright-eyed Len Dawson. Once again, Pittsburgh had a talented young QB sitting on the bench waiting for a chance. This time they knew not to cut him. Dawson got buried behind 2 other quarterbacks. Former 2nd overall pick Earl Morrall and aging star Bobby Lane. Lane was a living legend, sure, but he also had a habit of showing up to games still fucking tanked from the night before. Yet somehow Pittsburgh still decided a drunken Lane was the better long-term option. Dawson, on the other hand, over-marinated on the bench, throwing all of 17 passes in 3 seasons. He too would be shown the door and swiftly kicked in the ass. Instead of giving him a legitimate chance to develop, the Steelers panicked and gave him the only fate worse than death: a bus ticket to Cleveland.
Is one of the nation's great manufacturing centers.
You are a factory of sadness!
There, Len would also receive a one-way ticket to the bench. Cleveland already had Milt Plum as their starter. He was awarded some level of catharsis as Cleveland would dissect the Steelers a few months after his arrival to the tune of 42-12. Unfortunately, alongside thrashing his former team, Milt Plum would also put up a perfect passer rating. Translation, he wasn't gonna see the field here. After 2 more wasted years, he was released and left without a team during the 1962 season. But as luck would have it, salvation arrived in the form of Dallas Texans head coach Hank Stram. Stram had a bold approach with Dawson. Give him actual playing time. Lo and behold, the 5th overall pick, boasting 2 starts over 5 years, had talent to unlock. He blossomed into one of the best quarterbacks of the 60s. By 1967, Dawson would lead the now Kansas City Chiefs to the AFL Championship and a Super Bowl appearance. By 1970, he famously upset the Vikings in the Super Bowl and was named MVP of the game. smoking cigarettes and drinking Fresca like the boss he is. Another Steeler QB castaway wins a championship for another team. That certainly hasn't happened in recent times, thank God. To be fair, the black and gold eventually figured out that having a good quarterback is, helpful. But it only took 2 Hall of Fame level mistakes and about 20 more years of general mediocrity. It'd be solved by stumbling onto one Terry Bradshaw thanks to winning a coin toss during the 1970 NFL Draft. The moral of the story? If Pittsburgh drafts you as a quarterback, get the fuck out while you can. Because you could end up in Canton somewhere else.